Hi, I'm Quentin Schultz, a communications scholar, a public speaker, and author. One of my books is An Essential Guide to Public Speaking, An Essential Guide to Public Speaking. What I want to talk with you about today is how to recover when you make a mistake, sometimes a big mistake, in the middle of your speaking. What do you do? How do you recover graciously? How do you keep it going? How do you keep from losing it? Oh my, what have I done? I've made a complete fool of myself. I misspoke. Beyond that, I said something I shouldn't have said. I might have offended. I've offended in my public speaking, badly. Tried to apologize, tried to get out of it. When I was a newer speaker, I didn't know how to do that, and I got into worse trouble trying to get out of it. What do you do when you make an utter fool of yourself? I'm going to tell you a true story right now that's going to boggle your mind. This actually happened. I gave a long presentation, I think it was about 2 hours, using PowerPoint to a group, a religious group, let me just put it that way, who were studying the internet and how to use the internet well, how to design, build websites that were effective for communication. They invited me to their headquarters in the Midwest and said, would I help them understand how you communicate using the World Wide Web? This was in the earlier days of the World Wide Web. I knew a lot about it. I had worked with students early on, designed a number of websites for corporations, for nonprofits, and the like. So I've always loved technology. I liked the World Wide Web. And I was one of the first people out there doing some presentations on the topic of how to communicate well through the technology. So I prepared a 10-part PowerPoint slide presentation. And I have a kind of identity that I sometimes use with my students and in my speaking where I refer to myself as Dr. Q. It's just kind of a quaint little thing, and a lot of students over the years have called me that, so I use it now and again, Dr. Q. So here I'm doing this presentation to a group of maybe 300 people. And the presentation is on how to use the World Wide Web effectively for communication. I thought I would make this humorous by looking at the problems. In other words, the things that you shouldn't do. So what should you not do that will be miscommunication in using the World Wide Web, the internet? Oh, great, great approach. I really liked it. Look at the problems and then avoid those, and here are the positive sides, the things that you can do to avoid those problems. Wonderful. Only one big problem. Wait till you hear this. I designed this presentation, top 10 points, and I called them Dr. Q's top 10 boners. You heard me right. Dr. Q's top 10 boners. Now you're probably laughing, saying, how could this guy, me, be so utterly stupid? Well, let me tell you something. I grew up in a very difficult family situation in Chicago. I didn't have much social life. There's a lot of street language, common stuff that people use, especially guys use around other guys, that I never learned. All I knew was what I learned academically about what a boner is. A boner is a simple, dumb little mistake. Dr. Q's top 10 boners. In other words, the mistakes for the internet. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Not only that, each of those top 10 could be taken in a kind of Freudian way to refer to what many people think a boner is from the common everyday language. And if you don't know, I'm going to tell you in just a second what a boner is. Some of you will stay tuned just to see how I'm going to tackle that one in this video. A boner, wow. First boner, second boner. Each boner that I went through in this top 10, the audience is laughing louder. What in the world is going on? I check my zipper, my fly, that's not open. Why is everybody laughing? I have no clue. It's getting worse and worse and worse. I finally get down and complete it. All 10 of them, we take a break before I come back for Q&A, and I am astonished. What in the world is going on? I don't have a clue. One of my former students from college happened to be there, and she came up to me and she said, red-faced Dr. Q, do you know what a boner is? And I said, yes, it's a simple, dumb little mistake. She said, there's another meaning for it. I said, really, what's that? And she said, a male erection. An erection. What? It can't be. It was true. I went through this whole thing. I think it was about 90 minutes long. Dr. Q's top 10 boners. Ho, baby. Talk about making a fool of yourself. Terrible. So I came back after the break and I said to everybody, I didn't know all of the meanings of boner and I apologize. Well, nobody took offense to it. I wasn't trying to give offense and it was a funny thing, but actually it took away from the points I was trying to make because everybody was laughing so hard and looking at the connections between each of the top 10 and what I was saying, this kind of Freudian connection stuff. Oh boy, that's just one of the big mistakes I've made. We all make mistakes in public speaking. Here are some of the mistakes we make. We misspeak. We say something that's maybe the opposite of what we meant. What do? You stop and you correct yourself. You don't make a big issue out of it. This is what I'm trying to get across. Never make a big issue out of it. When something happens, you make a mistake, you recover graciously by just going ahead. If you need to apologize quickly, fine. But just correct yourself and move ahead. Don't make a big issue out of it. If it's something that people laugh about, it's okay. In most cases, making a mistake will endear you to the audience. So you misspeak. Another thing is you get into trouble with technology. You got the wrong slide going, or the thing's not working properly. Don't make a big issue out of it. Just move ahead. If the slides are not working, speak using the notes from the slides without the slides. If the technology is a problem, abandon the technology and just move ahead. It's not the end of the world. You can recover graciously from that. One of the things I do, I'll talk more about this in another video later, with PowerPoint is always to have handouts in paper form as well, in case the technology goes down. Another problem is that you recognize after you say something that you have offended people. And I've done this. I could tell from the reactions in the audience that people were a little bit upset with me. Usually this happens with a joke that bombs, or worse yet, a joke that gives offense. What do? Let's just pretend for a minute that you were offended by my boner story a few minutes ago. Say, I'm sorry. I think what I just did offended some of you, and I certainly didn't mean to, so let me apologize. And then you move on. You give an authentic apology if you offend. Don't make a super big issue out of it. After all, you're not intending to do it. You move on. You move on. There are all kinds of trouble that we can get into. Let me just say something about two of the most common. One of them is that we lose our place. Whether we're using a manuscript or not, we lose our place. Oh boy, what am I doing? Where am I at here? I'm looking down on my notes and so on. Many times I've been in an audience and the person starts making a big issue out of it. I can't find my place, this and that, and another thing. It's no big deal. You don't even have to say anything about that. It's not an apology for offense. Just get back to where you were and keep going. And I'll tell you, in most cases, if it's not a long period of time, like 15, 20, 30 seconds, it doesn't make any difference. People are thinking anyway about what you've just said, so you keep moving on. Another thing that's very, very common is we articulate poorly. We articulate poorly on something. So we go to say a word or a phrase or a formal name of a company maybe even that we're presenting to or whatever, and we just don't articulate it well. We get kind of mumbled up and we know it at the time and say, oh boy, I didn't get that out right. I do this all the time in my public speaking. Here's what you do. You stop and you re-express it. You say it again with better articulation, better enunciation. You just say it again. You stop and say it again. Okay? That's all you have to do. And then you move on. You've recovered graciously without making a big issue about it. The thing about making a big issue when we get into trouble in public speaking is that we take away from our presentation and we focus on the problem. The audience doesn't want to focus on the problem. You don't want to focus on the problem, so don't focus on it. In other words, don't be too self-concerned about how you're coming across. Serve that audience and keep going. Recover graciously. Recover graciously. I've done dumb things that would be difficult to recover from. You know, when I did that boner deal, oh wow. But I came back after that break and I simply apologized and explained what happened, and it was okay. It will always be okay. Although I'll tell you this, you probably find anybody that was in that audience, they remember what I did and they're still laughing about it, and they didn't learn as much from the presentation as they could have. But I had my outline handed out in paper form, and they all had that to review. That's my saving grace in it. So do not worry. Recover graciously when things don't go as well as you expected in any of the ways that I talked about. Don't focus on the problem. Focus on moving ahead, correcting yourself, finding your place again, and you're back on the road. You can do this, really. The worst thing in public speaking is not these kinds of minor problems. The worst thing is not knowing what you're talking about, not having the audience correctly identified. That's bad stuff. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this, down below, hit the thumbs up for a like. If you would like to find out more about me, there's a link to my website down below, and you can go there and subscribe to my website. You can also find out how to contact me personally if you'd like to. I appreciate you tuning in. I really appreciate you watching this video, and I hope that when something happens in one of your speeches, you will not become all unglued, but you'll look at it, briefly correct it, and move ahead. That's the way to recover graciously in public speaking. Thanks so much.